Welcome in to the latest episode of the Need for Seats College Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner. I'm with my co-host at Big East Ben. It is Sunday night, and there is no college basketball, anything out there on podcasts of any sort. You're simply stuck with ESPN bracketology and hearing Tom Crean yell about teams sitting out of the NIT or Josh Pastner picking Houston to win the title over Iowa State because he loves the Big 12. At Big East Ben, how are you feeling entering in this beautiful, most wonderful time of the year?
I feel good. I feel good. It was a good selection show. Um the Big East totally got screwed.
Okay.
3 teams in for the second best conference according to KenPom. Providence, St. John's, and probably most egregiously Seton Hall all left out of the field in favor of teams like Colorado State, Colorado, Virginia, who's left? Boise State. So
Mountain West, a team in the mountains that plays in the Pac-12.
yeah,
And
so
go ahead.
Griffin,
Yeah.
as a fan of the Mountain West Conference, as a new
At Mount
fan
at Mountain West Ben.
to the Mountain West Conference, uh, due to the change in location, do you think there's any credibility behind the theory that since the Mountain West is broadcast on CBS, the same
Ooh.
network
Ooh.
that hosts these games we love to watch,
Ooh.
and that the Big East is on Fox, they decided to screw the best conference in the United States of America?
I don't know where this conspiracy theory comes from. I don't know. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I know for sure that it was Lee Harvey Oswald or whatever with JFK, John Wilkes Booth with Abraham Lincoln, all that sort of stuff. Um, I just think they're generally incompetent folks on this committee that have. I mean, there are rules, which does make the selection process, I think, more complicated than it would for all of us looking and saying, what a dumb decision to put. I mean, Virginia making it in over Indiana State is just a crime against humanity, I think. But I guess you could argue, I mean, I know Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander were certain that St. John's was getting in after their loss to Connecticut. And the bubble did shrink because
Mm-hmm.
there's more bid stealers this year than ever. I'm not going to, I mean, you could be right. The dollars do make sense, as they say. I just don't know necessarily that I could ever, I don't think 12 committee members or whatever jurors we're calling them could ever pull off that type of scheme.
I'm not too broken up about it. I just wanted to stir the pot a little bit.
Well, that's what we do here on the Betting the Pitch presents the Need for Seats College Basketball Podcast. So what we're going to do is one show each night for this week before we get into the tournaments. We're starting on Sunday with the East region, if I'm not mistaken. Figure we'll go game by game, give you a pick in this first round. I guess maybe we'll save the picks to the end of the show per usual, so I can cut it into something I put on Reels or on Instagram at the real underscore G Warner on both those platforms. But also, I feel like we might as well give an idea just on our first look what we thought would happen. I know I always fill out a bracket right after I see it. That usually does better than the one I spend all week on. So I probably should just enter that in most pools instead of the one I spend and toil over. But I do think there's some value this year, especially because a lot of teams that shouldn't be in this tournament won their conference tournaments and such. But we'll start with, I guess, maybe just the news topic of it all, because I'm not sure we're taking Stetson, a 26-point underdog at UConn. Total there is 144. What do you think about UConn being the number one overall seed? Did they deserve it? Was it locked up before they won the Big East, or do you think that was up in the air until everyone else basically lost on that one line?
I think it was locked up before the tournament started. I mean, you needed to have a pretty big collapse if they lost that St. John's game, and if Houston. I mean, maybe if Purdue won the Big Ten and UConn lost to St. John's, I could see it flipping. But totally deserving the number one overall seed. People now have their panties a bunch that even though they're the number one overall seed, they have the toughest road to the Final Four, which I would not so sure I would agree with. And that is based on the 2, 3, and 4 teams all being the conference winners in the form of Iowa State, Illinois, and Auburn. Um, I mean, I think that the 2, 3, 4 in the South is pretty good as well, with Marquette, Kentucky, and shit, I'm blanking on the fourth team.
So I'm still learning this bracket as well. Unfortunately, I wish I had it all committed to memory. Don't worry, I'll get there soon enough, and then it'll all escape my mind when I'm actually frantically looking at brackets. 14 with Marquette. Number 4 seed is Duke.
And Duke. I mean, I think that's a pretty good slate of 2, 3, 4. Um, so yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I mean, if the only team's going to stop them, really, I see is Iowa State in this region. That I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that. I mean, Auburn's not a complete team. Illinois, couple good players, still not enough of a force on defense to contend with them. So yes, by the 20,000 foot view of conference tournament winners, it's a tough road, but I don't think UConn will have too much trouble.
So I'm not sure I'm fully on board with that. When I was looking at the bracket initially, I was thinking, ooh, I mean, I guess part of being a 1 seed and how they're really, it's a gift because you get a 16 seed in the first round, but you also don't have to worry about a 2 or a 3 seed. So the best part, I think, of this bracket for UConn right now is they don't have to play Illinois or Iowa State. They just have to play one of them in that Elite Eight game. And that's if there's no carnage at the bottom side of this bracket. Before I think we get too far ahead of ourselves, because I think we could probably get into each game and then give an idea of how far we can expect each of these tournament teams to go, or what. I mean, because last year I felt like Memphis was going on a run if they didn't lose at the last few seconds to FAU, and then FAU made it to the Final Four and probably should have been in the title game if not for that last second shot. So you got any feelings about Stetson, the Hatters, their first time in the NCAA tournament? You think it's going to be a long run for them?
It will probably be a quick stay. I learned today that the Water Boy was filmed on the campus of Stetson University. I thought that was interesting. So good for them. They are 342nd in KenPom in defense. So UConn might set a record here in this game.
Well, good for them. We'll see what happens later. I don't think 26 points will ever become something I lay. So we'll move on to the 8-9 matchup there. Those Florida Atlantic Owls, those little pesky Owls, and I think they're starting us off 11:15 tip time on Friday. So this is not a Thursday round, but we're going by region. So bear with us. Looks like FAU, I expect them to be a slight favorite. They open -2. I'm seeing -2.5 right now at BetOnline. If you're not a member yet at BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag, check out those sites. There are links in the podcast description, which will give you free money at each of the casinos. They're basically the same one, but they'll give you different amounts of money depending if you haven't had a first time deposit at either of those sites. So FAU, 2.5 point favorite. Looks like the total is 141.5.
I mean, I've been fading FAU all year. I mean, for some reason, the computer metrics are giving them, or at least during the regular season, I hadn't seen the team lose outright as much as they did as like double digit favorites. Case in point, the other day against Temple. Boo Buie is the best player on the court. He is a guy made for March Madness. I can see him easily going for over 30 in this game. Yes, Northwestern has been bitten by the injury bug with Tyler Berry going down about six or 7 games ago, and they've done pretty well without him. I think Ryan Londenberg is back. Do we know that?
Lindenborg, the Princeton transfer.
Yeah.
I have not heard that injury information, but that is an important person. I do feel like John L. Davis has some questions about being the best player on the floor.
It says he was back. So Langborg, whatever.
Langborg, something like that.
Ryan Langborg, yeah. So he's
ankle
back.
injury, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think this Owls team, they just rested on their laurels all year from last season, from that little run they had last season. Remember that the team last year won 30 games. Yes, Florida Atlantic took a step up in conference, but they were nowhere near that. Second exit in the American tournament. I think these guys are total frauds. I'm going to take the best player on the court. I'm going to take a more, battle tested team throughout the season in the Big Ten, giving the Northwestern Wildcats +1.5.
Yeah, even give you 2.5 right now. I
Yeah.
think from I'll go with Florida Atlantic. I think they have some problems. We saw it against Illinois, but Illinois seems to be able to go one-on-one on almost anybody especially after watching what they did to Wisconsin today. Not that that's new, but it's just, I think, more proven that Illinois can do that against any defense. Florida FAU was just too small that day, but I feel like we've seen Marcus Damas make everyone look small this season. Northwestern, my questions about them. I think Chris Collins is a fantastic coach. I still think it's crazy he got overlooked for the Duke job and they gave it to John Shire. That was mind blowing to me. But I worry with a lot of prep time that Chris Collins is going to put together a pretty good performance here. I don't really understand why Northwestern was only a 3-point underdog against Wisconsin. Yes, Wisconsin was kind of limping into that Big Ten tournament, but I just feel like Northwestern, ever since they've been dealing with these injuries, I guess Langborg is back, but ever since Barry went down, I feel like that really zapped an important 3-point shooter. And they are very tough and physical and force a lot of turnovers. I just don't think a 4 guard lineup like FAU is going to be one of those teams that turns it over to them. I do like Florida Atlantic in this one, and I have some interest in them potentially giving UConn a game just because they can really just spread the court and shoot threes, and you never know if those go in. The one seeds, I mean, they're all going to have tough games in the second round because you get an 8 or 9 that's guaranteed to be a decent team compared to a 4 seed that get like a 14 or something like that if there's a big upset. I don't know that there's enough in FAU to knock out UConn, but I don't think there's enough in Northwestern. So I feel like if you're UConn, you might even want to see Northwestern as opposed to FAU after that run they put forth last season. Do you want to say anything more about this game? We're going to move on to the next one.
Let's go to our 5 versus 12.
Let's go to the 5 versus 12, and that is the San Diego State Aztecs coming off of I guess, runner-up finish, despite being a 5 seed and the favorite to win the Mountain West Conference, according to the odds makers throughout the land. It looks like San Diego State opened a 5-point, or excuse me, opened up a 6-point favorite. They're currently 6.5-point favorites to your outright Conference USA or whatever conference American pick, the UAB Blazers, who got a big win, took down the team that had formerly been throwing games and decided they weren't throwing games and just beat everybody like FAU we just talked about. A lot of American in this segment already.
A lot of people are hating on UAB in the small, snippets of bracketology talk. It wasn't. It's not a sexy 12/5. I love this team. Gave them out as the dark horse to win the American. They did it.
At what number? At what number was that?
Plus 1,800.
18-1 odds. That'll get you done.
Cashed it. And saying they haven't beat anybody. Look. I think the American's a decent conference. Do I think it's as good as the Mountain West? No, but it's not too far below it. Okay. They beat in that conference. They beat Florida Atlantic. They beat Memphis. They beat North Texas. They beat SMU. They beat real teams. They got a great backcourt. Gainey's awesome. Their point guard.
Gaines.
What?
Gaines S, not Y.
Gaines is an awesome point guard. He's electric. He does seem like he's shaky with the ball, but it doesn't turn the ball. It's a weird paradigm. And then you got Yaxel Lundenberg down low. He can handle the D. This other guy, Vasquez, he's like a slasher. He was incredible against Temple today. It was his first 5 threes.
He was good against South Florida, too, from what I was watching.
Yeah. It's a good, they got a good team. UAB's got a good team. I think San Diego State is still just very overrated. They went further in the Mountain West than I thought they would. I thought they were going to drop that one against UNLV, and they just squeaked it out in overtime. So yeah, give me the Blazers here, like +6. I think this should be like a much more sexier 12/5 than it's currently being put on the spotlight.
Sure. Yeah. So I remember 12/5s very, for some reason, I think I put a lot more money than I was comfortable losing in college on, I think it was Drake, a 2.5-point favorite as a 5 seed to Western Kentucky at 12. And that went predictably horribly wrong. But that to me is what, like, two relatively off the beaten path 5 versus 12, not really in the power conferences type of lines can sometimes look like. That's 4 points different than what we have here. I think there's a ton of room for UAB to lose and cover this spread. Certainly that's not something I've been advocating for a lot of this season, because ultimately with the foul games that is a big time danger zone right there at 6.5. But if people aren't going to pick UAB, I mean, the 12-5 is not as sexy, I guess, as 11-6 or something like that. But still, that seems to be a pretty good spot. I mean, we've seen plenty of 14 seeds and 15 seeds now even win and win two games. I just don't really see, and I haven't felt this way about San Diego State, despite having a future on them to win the title. I pretty much bet that they would get a high seed. I don't think they deserve this 5 seed that they have at all. I feel like they're an 8 or a 9. And I don't know necessarily that UAB is a strong team, but they've certainly been playing very well. And Andy Kennedy's going to throw a bunch of different defenses at a San Diego State team that doesn't really have a point guard. And I think he's going to try to force them to shoot threes, which they cannot do, or they haven't shown they can this entire season. So give me UAB, take that 6.5 as well. And I'm going to pick them in my brackets to win on top of that. Let's now move to the I think the game of the day that I watched, at least the maybe surprising result slash dominance from Auburn in the SEC championship game in Nashville. I don't think you came with me to the SEC tournament in Nashville, did you?
No, just the tournament games. Never went to the SEC.
Yeah, that was a mistake, but I guess I just skipped school, so bad boys. So Yale is the alternative option if you're thinking about potentially taking a 13 seed. And I was really hoping Yale would get a team like I don't know if I was just like saying this to myself, but I mixed up when I was making my lines initially. I thought it was Yale against Baylor. I guess also Yale knocked out Baylor a few years ago, but that's
How does Yale out rebound Baylor?
You get more. The ball hits the rim or the glass, and you go up and grab it. That's what you call a rebound. Tayshaun Prince. Tayshaun Prince? No, that
Orion
was a Kentucky
Prince.
player. Torian Prince. There it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yes, nice. Yeah, that was an iconic one. Maybe I was just like channeling that, but I was really hoping that Baylor would get someone bad in this round or someone good in this round, like Yale. I don't know that how good I feel about Yale against this Auburn team because Yale, a pretty big favorite today after Brown knocked off Princeton, kind of surprising fashion, were literally on the ropes slash looked like they were dead. Then they basically Brown, I think, got a little tense, missed some free throws down the stretch. This one guy I used to see in Montauk was like literally on camera, like freaking out at the end of the game. I think played basketball at Brown. I have no idea what his name was, but they called him the Montauk Monster. There's probably a whole podcast to go on about that. But I saw him actually on camera. I was like, I know that guy. And then
It's
that
called
was
the Montauk Monster.
Montauk Monster. I looked it up on Twitter. It wasn't
Good
trending,
serial
but
killer name.
yeah, I mean, he's clearly at game. I guess he's got his parole officer lets him go to games. So, what I saw, I think it was 4 points lead at that point, and then I think Brown was going to the line, and they made one, maybe, or maybe didn't make, or maybe missed the front end. And then Yale ran their one 3-point shooter lefty off a screen. There was no one within 10 feet of him. I don't know if they were like, oh, we thought it's going the other way and going for a two. Like, what's going on here? And then Yale drills that three and then gets a rebound, runs down, and then they don't cover some guy for the late shot that I
That guy
guess.
was open for like 10 seconds on the shot.
So I didn't watch it long enough, but I was like, how did they just go and double someone and just completely leave someone alone with their NCAA tournaments like life on the line? That was madness. But I guess Ivy Madness. You could say the Ivy League is not as smart as the people in there think it is, but anyway, to get to this game, Auburn pretty much destroyed a Florida team that had their player confound fracture his ankle, I think, in the first few minutes before the first TV timeout. That was not great for my Florida play today, I will say. But ultimately, one of the things I did like about Florida was their front court depth, which was severely tested. And I don't think it was anywhere near what I was hoping it would be after that injury occurred, plus the shock and awe and all that sort of stuff. But Auburn to me, listen to Jimmy Dykes, maybe want to put my head in a toaster oven. But at this point, I think Auburn, they have a really tough defense. And that's I think that's what we've been missing about them this year. They haven't beaten a lot of great teams as we saw until this tournament, but they didn't have to face Tennessee. They faced a 6 seed Florida in the title game. So maybe it's still smoke and mirrors. But I thought Florida, I mean, I've been backing them a lot lately. They've been really good. And I thought Auburn were able to cut the head off the snake pretty well with a lot of their pressure. I don't think Yale is athletic. Currently, Yale, a 13-point underdog, open 12.5. Looks like the total has dropped from 138.5 points to 138. So not much movement. But do we think that Yale can make this a game? A, do you think they can win this game? B?
So the Auburn Tigers are number 4 in KenPom. Very gaudy KenPom numbers. But the Auburn Tigers are 3-7 in quad one games. So you're probably asking, hey, Big East Ben, why is this team that, according to KenPom, should be a 1 seed, has such a poor record against the upper echelon of teams in Division One? The reason is they kick the living shit out of teams that are not in their stratosphere. I would put Yale not in their stratosphere, unfortunately. When they know they are the better team, clearly they put their foot down, they floor it, and they end games in a hurry. The only time Yale has stepped up in competition was against Kansas this year, back in non-con. Took it on the chin at Fog Allen by 15. It was actually they actually did stick around in the first half. They're only
I
down a
wish my
couple.
team only lost by 15.
Yeah, yeah. um, but yeah, I like Auburn here covering the numbers. Yale is extremely lucky to be here after today's events. Give me Bruce Pearl's crew.
Okay, so what I thought you were going into saying was that they beat the shit out of the teams, meaning they're so physical, they foul the whole game, and Bruce Pearl eventually takes a timeout and yells at the referees that they have 8 fouls called on them and Florida has 2. Because that's exactly what happened today. And I'm pretty sure, the Pitino school of how we win basketball games. Our defense, quote unquote, is really good just because we foul the whole time. And eventually,
Patino doesn't talk to refs anymore. He said that the other day.
yeah, he also doesn't call out his slow, unable to move sideways laterally players either. But I mean, that's a Coach Cal line too. Like literally yelling at refs saying, "I'm talking to my players," when he said, "You are an idiot." But I'm pretty sure when he says Jeff Anderson before he says it, I don't think you can deny that you're talking to Jeff Anderson. But I guess we got the high stepper reference on this podcast. Good for him. I think Auburn's going to be really physical, and if there's ever a time to use your athletic advantage, honed on the plains of Alabama versus the castle-looking Yale campus, that can't play fifth-year players because you can only play 4 competitive seasons in the Ivy. So it's going to be Yale, I think, in a very dismal state, taking a lot of 3-point shots. Maybe they go in. I don't think they go in enough to take them. I was hoping to like I said, back them against a weaker top seeded team that I felt was overseeded. I feel like Auburn, a 4 in the SEC tournament. They got a lot of love to win that event, and lo and behold, they did it. I think I was scratching my head at how Auburn was second favorite despite being on the same side as Tennessee. But it happened. And I think there's a lot of weird stuff that happens during conference tournament week that I feel like I am not ever going to be able to explain. So maybe I'll just leave it there. So move next to the BYU Cougars. They are
So are you on Auburn then? That line?
Oh yeah, I'll take Yale, but I don't
For
like it.
graphic? For
Yeah,
graphic
for
purposes?
graphic purpose, I'll take Yale, but I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't know how to say that better. Like 13 and a half or 13 seems enormous. We'll go to Duquesne, an incredible run in the A10. I mean, I can see why UMass is fleeing to the MAC based on that performance in that tournament this weekend. Oh my God. But Duquesne, I mean, they were picked to win the A10 from earlier the season. Didn't really deliver on that at all this year. Asked a good friend of mine who follows the conference really closely, and he said it's a lot based on continuity. Because I was like, I just keep betting against Duquesne, and I never lose. Why do they keep being respected like this? Well, I guess it paid off in the A10 tournament, whether you believe it or not. I think they were a 6 seed, got all the way to the final, or was it whatever seed they were? They beat a 5
6 seed. Yep.
seed. Yeah, 6. So that'd be the other side of the bracket. They get BYU in Omaha, which I was pretty disappointed in another of the flyover states or the truck stop conference, the tournament that I went to this weekend. There was not more BYU support. They're also literally as quiet as I could ever imagine when Texas Tech was just crushing them. And like anytime BYU like was going on a run, nothing from what seemed like a decent crowd of BYU fans, though those morning sessions were absolutely dead as mausoleums. BYU an 8-point favorite right now, total at 142 and a half, down from an opener at 143. Feels like a pretty big spread, but especially after watching how BYU struggled with Texas Tech. But I could be a little bit recency biased into that one. What do you think about this one before I get into my thoughts?
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, I remember you fading Duquesne early in the season. I remember those tweets going out. The only time I bet them this year was visiting Fordham, which they lost outright as 6-point favorites, and they've gone on to just win 8 straight since I bet them. So you're welcome. You're welcome, Duquesne.
What was what did our shooter from the corner call him? Duchesne? Did he call it like Andy Dufresne, like from whatever crawl through a mile of shit to come out clean on the other side, you know?
Duquesne.
Duquesne. Anyway, we need to figure that out before our next show. But go ahead.
Duquesne's in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know a lot about them. I know they are just the ugly defensive minded team, which could beat BYU. Like BYU is just one of those, finesse, beautiful ball rotation to the open shooter, and they're great at making those cuts. And if you just throw a bunch of slop at them that Duquesne's going to do, uh, they have a chance. But I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. I'll probably take the under on this one, under 143.
Okay. I think the 8 points feels like a lot to me. I think there's huge blowout risk because if BYU makes shots, there's no way that
Yeah.
Duquesne can keep up on the scoreboard. I did just attend a game where BYU was not shooting well, despite having a game under their belts in the Big 12 tournament, which to me is always an advantage. Get to play at a neutral site, and then your team that has a bye that's supposed to be better than you ends up closing as a 3-point underdog. But I don't think BYU ever led, so that didn't matter. The shooting today, and you could argue the whole A10 tournament. I feel like every year at the Barclays Center, no shots go in. But I think there was like a stretch where there's 2 baskets made in a VCU Duquesne final, like 2 baskets for the first entire half of the second half. So I think this is more like I don't know that it's Duquesne's defense at all. I thought they shot really well against St. Bonaventure, which was a big reason why they were able to get up to a big lead, and Bonnies were never able to really get back into it. The win over Dayton, I didn't see much of, but then they beat St. Louis like that. What a run for Duquesne, beating a 14 seed at 3. Bonnies were like I don't even know what was Bonnies a
Well,
7, I guess.
UMass was a. Oh wait, no, VCU beat UMass.
Yes, that was 5-4. So it must have been 7. So
Yeah,
Bonnies were a 7 and then beat like literally to win 4 games and the biggest seed you played was a 3 or the best seed you played was a 3. I don't know that I have much belief in Duquesne. I think this can be a blowout, but I don't think I can back an 8-point cover here. So I'll go Duquesne, and again another one I really don't like. We'll move next to Illinois, and I mean they had a pretty. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the performance today. It was a pretty nice cover if you had the -3 or even the -4, because it definitely did not look guaranteed.
the mask is unstoppable. Like the mask
Go
just
ahead.
slowly butt ball. The guy's automatic. Once he gets in 10 feet, he's fade away automatic. He's
Coach's son
incredible.
has to be a coach's son. I won't hear it otherwise.
And then Terrence Shannon, like if I was on like the last man on defense on a breakaway, he's probably like the last player I would have a chance of stopping. Like that guy.
Tyler Crowell today, trying like when he was going 1-on-1 with space, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that I feel like giving up an uncontested layup was like the dream scenario. I was like, oh my God, this is definitely going to be an and one.
Yeah. They those two guys are as good of a 1-2 punch as there is in college basketball. And then you got uh Coleman Hawkins is a great glue guy. He can step out and hit it.
Blue guy,
Urier,
aka 6'11" point guard, who was playing pretty much power forward today, and they're just letting Dane Danger go out there and dunk on fools. I thought Illinois looked great today in a
yeah.
game that they probably shouldn't have covered, but I mean, good teams win, great teams cover.
Yeah, they're a unit. Again, though, it's the defense. I mean, they were really letting Chucky Hepburn just like get inside at will, which is like, guys, he's not that great. Like, um, and besides that, I mean, Wisconsin really was only to stay able to stay in that game from some really nice shooting from Max Klesmit.
Yep.
But
He was
Illinois
clutch.
far and away the superior team. But again, it comes down to defense. Is this team willing to defend? Um, the offense is there. It's will the defense show up? And I don't think it's going to show up to win 4 straight game, maybe even 3 straight games.
So you're taking Moorhead straight up.
No, I'm not. I'm not taking Moorhead. Kenneth Fareed isn't walking through that door.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Moorhead.
So I'll give you Moorhead.
Yeah,
My second favorite school besides Oral Roberts, but
more than
Moorhead.
Longwood.
Yeah, I didn't think about that one, but nice. Very good. Morehead State. So they were, I think, going to be the best team in this conference whole year. Had a really bad end to the season and fell all the way down to a 3 seed, still won their conference tournament, obviously. They used to battle with Murray State, but Murray State moved on. Morehead State stuck around, and they should probably be in this tournament every year, it feels like. Um, I just I don't really know. Illinois should be. I mean, the question is in this tournament really is if you can't defend, you can lose games like this. As a 12-point favorite, that's asking a lot. I'm sure you're getting a pretty nice ticket if you're taking Moorhead straight up. Um, I I don't think this is a loss here, though. Certainly, we've seen teams that run all the way into their conference tournaments struggle. At least the big time Big Six, Power Six conference tournament winners to not be so great in that next big one. But I just don't know if this is going to be close enough. And as we've seen, the mask is automatic, and I don't really think anyone if Chucky Hepburn can't stop him, I mean, it seemed like he was just posting up Max Klesmit every chance he could. But if Hepburn, who's I think a really good defender, that's his calling card. If he can't do anything against it, I don't see anyone in the Moorhead State roster that can do it either.
And like this Illinois team, like I thought they had 0 poise after that Penn State loss when they just totally choked in the last 2 minutes. But
Yep.
I was really impressed with them in the Nebraska game. I mean, Nebraska was rolling them.
Yep.
15, they were up by 15 with 17 minutes left in the first quarter. I had Nebraska plus 4.5, feeling great. This is over. And they never panicked. They locked in on defense. They locked in on Tominaga. Held him to 2 for 9 shooting. They put Hawkins on him the whole game. So I know Moorhead State's a really good 3-point shooting team. You can put Hawkins on their best, whatever guard they have that can bomb it from 3. He has the lateral quickness to shut him down. So even if Moorhead State, jumps out to, is close at halftime or jumps out a lead, this Illinois team's been there before. So I think they can handle it.
All right, I'm going to take over 147 as my best bet here. It looks like it's fallen 4.5 points from open to 151.5, which doesn't make me feel great.
I'll take the over 2 on that one. Yeah.
There you go. A little double best bet right there. All right, we got to get through 2 games in 5 minutes and get best bets out of here. So we'll move now to Drake and Washington State. Looks like Washington State opened a 1.5-point favorite. That's down to Pick'em. Total 139.5 down to 137.5.
What was the line again? Sorry.
Pick'em right now. Drake or
Pick
Washington
'em. I think
State.
it opened up with Drake as a 1.5-point favorite, I believe.
I see Washington State as a 1.5-point favorite, but at this point, who knows? In Omaha, which I think is a lot closer to Des Moines than it is to Pullman.
It is, and those fans travel. They got a good base. I think Drake gets this one done. I mean, Washington State, no one really expected them to be here. I think they're a little overrated because they play in the weak ass Pac-12. Like
Wow.
Miles Rice is okay. Like I feel like
He beat cancer.
that's where he gets a little extra bump. The feel good bump.
You think Torvik throws a little extra 10% on his metrics?
The good story bump. Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Right.
I like Drake avenging that first round loss to Miami last year, which was also a 12-5 game. They should have had that one. I believe they were up by like 5 or 6 late in that second half. It's a long time. What's up?
In the play-in first 4 you're talking about?
No, it was the tournament game last year. They they took on Miami as a 12 seed.
Oh, yes. I think that was a scary one. And then Miami made the Final Four.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
So I like Drake in this one. Washington State, good story, but I don't think that team's there.
Yeah, I don't think Washington State is very good. So I'll take Drake. Pick 'em. Last but not least, we'll go Iowa State. They're a 2 seed. They're facing South Dakota State at Jackrabbits, who I actually have seen live. Iowa State, 16.5 point favorites that open down to 15.5, total 133.
I've heard that this is one of the worst South Dakota State teams in years. Iowa State's unbelievable. Their fans travel.
You're talking to one.
Yeah, yeah. I like the Cyclones no matter what the spread is.
Yeah, I've converted their juicy dance. Oh my God. If you're not watching on video, make sure you subscribe on YouTube,
Did you see the video
Spotify,
of the
Apple
guy
Podcast.
doing like the what do you call that? Demons Out, the Exorcist, the live Exorcist on camera.
I did not. I guess I need to find that. But yes, that place was lit. Hilton South is totally real, and forever I'm betting Iowa State, and I think I might get a tattoo. So that'll do it for this East region. I guess we're not going to go through. We're just giving you first round games at this point. Do you want to actually give me a winner for the region, Ben?
UConn.
And if it's not UConn,
Give me Illinois. Why not?
okay, I like Illinois in a game with Iowa State if we get that, but I still feel like the 1 and 2 seed are too strong here. So let's get to our best bets. If you're not subscribed to my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G-Warner. But if you are, I love you already, and you should have an avenue to request things for these videos going forward the rest of the week. Start us off, Big East Ben, with your best bet from this first round of the East Regional.
My best bet is the Blazers, UAB Blazers. I think they can win this game outright. For sure, they're going to cover the spread. Give me University, Alabama, Birmingham.
So you just started at Big East Ben, gave you the UAB Blazers, a 6.5 point underdog in the first round against San Diego State. For my best bet in this East Regional, I'm the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and on Twitter. I'm going to grab those Drake. Just hold on, Bulldogs. A pick 'em against Washington State. Washington State's got a great analytical background. They've got a very smart, studious type of coach who likes to fool the odds makers and analytics chiefs that are out there. I just don't believe Washington State, with a offensive rebounding type of offense, is going to do much against a Drake team that doesn't allow those. I think DeVries, the son of the coach, shouldn't be playing at Drake, but is there and is one of those talents that Washington State will have trouble stopping, no matter how lengthy or whatever they are. Plus, Darnell Brody can certainly get some insight on that one as well. So take at Big East Ben's UAB plus 6.5, and my Drake pick'em, the real_G Warner, for our best bets for this Need for Seeds college basketball episode, the first one of the March Madness NCAA tournament. Now, dude, this episode, we're probably just getting signed off now. Ben, it's our time to sign off. See you all tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow.